Level 1, the conscript. The envelope arrives before sunrise. You don't open it. Your mother does. She reads it twice, sets it on the table, and doesn't look at you. You're 22. You studied physics at Kim Chaik University of Technology in Pyongyang. You scored in the top 4% of your graduating class. That number is the reason for the envelope. That number is the reason your life is no longer yours. The letter doesn't ask, it informs. You have been selected for service in a specialized science and engineering division under the Korean People's Army. Reporting date, 6 days. You are permitted to bring 1 bag. You tell yourself this is an honor. You've been told your whole life that this is an honor. And somewhere underneath the fear, part of you believes it. The facility is 3 hours east of Pyongyang. You travel by military vehicle, blindfolded for the final 40 minutes. When the cloth comes off, you're inside a compound surrounded by concrete walls and pine trees. The air is cold and smells like diesel. A man in a gray uniform hands you a badge with a number on it. Not a name, a number. He says, you will not discuss your work with family. You will not write about your work. You will not ask about work that is not your work. You nod. You don't ask what the work is. You already know, or you think you do. Everyone at Kim Chaik whispered about it. Weapons. The bomb. The thing that keeps the Americans from invading. The thing that keeps the country alive. You tell yourself you are protecting your people. Your bunk is a metal frame in a room of 16. The man next to you is from Hamhung. He's been here 11 months. He looks at your bag, then at your face, and says nothing. You will learn later that he stopped making eye contact with new arrivals a long time ago. Not out of cruelty, out of experience. Level 2, the technician. 8 months in, you understand the work. You are assigned to a team performing isotope separation calculations, specifically modeling gas centrifuge cascade efficiency for uranium enrichment. You know what this means. You knew in school what this means. But knowing in a lecture hall and knowing with your hands inside the process are 2 different things. You work 12-hour shifts, sometimes 14. The facility runs on coal power, supplemented by a diesel generator that cuts out every 4 to 6 days. When it cuts out, you sit in the dark and wait. No one complains about this. Your calculations go upward. You never see who reads them. You never receive feedback except when something is wrong. And when something is wrong, a supervisor arrives at your station, places a single sheet of paper face down in front of you, and waits while you read it. The paper describes the error. It never says who identified it or how. It simply states, "This was incorrect. Correct it." You correct it. You're good at this, better than most. Your supervisor, a compact man named Pak, who wears the same expression regardless of what you tell him, begins giving you secondary assignments, cross-checking the cascade models of other technicians, identifying inefficiencies. You do this without being asked twice. There is a small cafeteria with 4 tables. The food is consistent: rice, cabbage soup, occasionally fish. You eat the same meal for weeks and stop noticing. Hunger is a distraction, and you have learned to suppress distractions. You write 1 letter home per month. The letters are reviewed before they leave the facility. You learn quickly what you can say, that you are healthy, that your work is fulfilling, that you are proud to serve. You write these things. After a while, you don't think about the things you can't write. It becomes easier to focus on what you're permitted. You get a second blanket for winter. You don't ask why. You accept it. That's the first rule of this place. Accept what's offered. Don't ask what it costs. Level 3, the specialist. 2 years in, you have a desk. This is not a small thing. Most technicians share a workspace. You have your own terminal, your own filing cabinet, your own section of the lab cordoned off by a low partition. Your number badge has been replaced by a laminated ID with your name, your designation, and a colored stripe, green. That means you have access to 2 additional facility sectors. The work has shifted. You're no longer modeling cascades. You're contributing to weapons-grade enrichment threshold analysis. You know the difference between reactor-grade and weapons-grade. You understand the yield implications of what you're calculating. You've stopped thinking about this consciously. You think about the math. The math is clean. The math doesn't have a moral position. There's a physicist on your floor named Yoon. She is 31, from Pyongyang, and she is the sharpest person in the building. She doesn't talk much, but when she does, it's precise. You eat lunch near her twice a week. It's the closest thing you have to a social life. One afternoon, she tells you something that takes you a moment to process. 2 men from your intake cohort were transferred 6 months ago. Not promoted, not reassigned. Transferred. She says the word carefully and doesn't elaborate. You understand what she means. You don't ask who made that decision or why. You go back to your desk. That night, you review your work from the past month, not for errors, but looking at it differently, looking for anything that might be misread, anything that might look like incompetence, or worse, like intentional obstruction. You find nothing. You sleep for 5 hours. The next morning, you arrive at your station 12 minutes early. Level 4. The Senior Researcher. Your 4th year. You receive a different envelope. This one is not an induction. It is a commendation. Your work on the cascade efficiency models has been cited in an internal review at the division level. Your name appears in a document you are not allowed to read in full. You're shown a single paragraph, just long enough to confirm your contribution is recognized, then the document is removed from the table. You are promoted to Senior Researcher Grade 2. Your salary increases to 8,401 per month, supplemented by monthly ration bonuses, cooking oil, and extra protein allocation. Occasionally, imported goods you haven't seen since university. Chinese instant noodles, a bar of soap that smells like nothing synthetic. You move to a single occupancy room, 12 square meters, a window that faces the inner courtyard. The work now involves integration, connecting your enrichment models with warhead physics teams on separate floors. You don't interact with them directly. You submit reports, they submit queries. The queries come through a liaison officer named Colonel Rhee, who is always polite, always formal, and who you understand very quickly is not a scientist. He is a manager. He exists to make sure information moves and that the people moving it remain in their lanes. You remain in your lane. You are now reviewing the work of junior technicians. You sit where Pak once sat. You hand sheets of paper face down to young men who look the way you looked 4 years ago. They correct their errors and you see them recalibrate, not just technically, but psychologically, learning the rules without anyone spelling the rules out. You find yourself doing it deliberately, the face-down paper, the silence, not because anyone told you to, because it works. This concerns you briefly. Then you move on. Level 5. The Program Engineer. 6 years in. The name of your facility changes on your paperwork. You don't know if the facility itself changed or just the designation. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you now have a clearance level that has no color stripe. It has a number. The number means you can access the weapons integration floor, the actual floor where theoretical yield becomes tested design. You've been part of 3 development cycles. You understand the design lineage, from the early implosion tests to the boosted fission work to the current thermonuclear configuration analysis. You know things that would make foreign intelligence agencies spend years trying to confirm. You know them the way you know your own hands. You have a security handler now. His name is Lieutenant Seo. He accompanies you to any cross-department meeting, reviews your personal communications, what little of them exist, and conducts a monthly personal assessment. This is framed as a welfare check. It is not a welfare check. You tell him you are well, you are productive, you have no concerns. He writes this down. You do have concerns. You have learned not to locate them anywhere in your mind that Seo might be able to read. This is not paranoia. It is a skill you've developed the way you developed everything else here, through repetition, through watching what happened to people who didn't. Yoon was promoted to a different division last year. You have not seen her since. You assume she is fine. You have made peace with assuming things. You receive your first trip outside the facility in 3 years. A supervised visit to a Pyongyang conference, domestic scientists, military officials, a presentation on long-range delivery system integration. You sit in a room for 6 hours and absorb technical briefings. On the bus back, you watch Pyongyang through tinted glass. Buildings, people moving, a school letting out, a woman selling something from a cart. It looks far away, even though it's right there. Level 6, the Division Director. Year 9. You sit at a table now instead of a desk. The table is in a room that has your name, your actual name, not a number, on a placard outside the door. You manage a division of 41 researchers across 3 sub-teams. You have a secretary who is also a political officer. You understand this without being told. Your division is responsible for the miniaturization program, reducing warhead mass and diameter to fit intercontinental ballistic missile re-entry vehicles. This is the problem that took the program years to solve. You are part of the team that solved it. When the solution was confirmed, you were in a room with 7 other people. Nobody celebrated. There was a moment of silence that felt like the room exhaling. Then Colonel Rhee, now General Rhee, made a phone call, and the rest of the day proceeded normally. You thought about that moment for weeks.
You have dinner with General Rhee twice a month. It is always the same restaurant in Pyongyang. A private room, good food, North Korean wine you've developed a tolerance for. He tells you things about the program's political context that are filtered but more than most people in the facility know. You tell him what your division needs, materials, equipment, personnel adjustments. This is how things get done now, not through formal channels, through dinners. You have not called your mother in 4 months, not because you can't, because you don't know what to say. The person who would know what to say is not the person you are anymore. You send money instead, a portion of your supplemental allocation. She writes back, she is well, the apartment is warm, she is proud of you. You keep the letters in a drawer and don't reread them. Level 7, the Architect. Year 13. There are fewer than 40 people in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea who know what you know. You have verified this through the access systems you now help design. You are not being arrogant. It is simply the architecture of the program, and you know the architecture better than almost anyone. You do not have a title that exists on any public document. Your name does not appear in government rosters. When foreign analysts attempt to map North Korea's weapons program, they work with fragments, satellite imagery, defector testimony, radiation signatures. They do not have your name. You have read some of their analyses, passed to you through channels you won't describe. They are good. They are also incomplete in ways that cannot be corrected from the outside. You brief the supreme leadership twice per year. Not directly, through a 3-person protocol chain, But the briefings originate with you. The data is yours. The conclusions are yours.
Once, a conclusion of yours was rejected, not disputed, rejected. The technical finding was accurate. The political finding, that a certain test sequence carried a 34% probability of triggering UN sanctions severe enough to affect fuel imports, was removed from the briefing before it reached the top. You were told this afterward by General Rhee, matter-of-factly, the way you'd been told about errors early in your career. The information had been removed. You should continue your work. You continued your work. You have lost 7 colleagues to the system in 13 years, 2 to transfers you don't ask about, 3 to health. The facility is not a healthy place. The radiation protocols are better than they used to be, but not what they should be. 2 to something that was explained to you as misconduct and which you have never investigated further.
You still think about Yoon. You heard through Rhee that she is in a different program, Northern Facility. You do not know if this is true. You don't ask. Level 8, the ghost. You are not sure when it happened. At some point, you stopped being a person who works on the program. You became something the program carries, a weight-bearing element. If you were removed, something structural would shift. This is not ego. This is an engineering assessment. You live in a residence attached to the main complex. 4 rooms, a kitchen that is stocked weekly, a window that faces north, trees, a hillside, a perimeter fence you could see in detail if you wanted to. You don't look at the fence anymore. You haven't left the complex grounds in 7 months. There is no prohibition against it. You simply don't. The outside requires a kind of social presence you have gradually depreciated. You interact with 6 people on a regular basis. General Rhee, 2 senior researchers, your security handler who changed 3 years ago to a man who was quietly professional and whom you have no feelings about, a physician who visits monthly, a technician who maintains your equipment. 6 people.
The program has successfully tested a thermonuclear device. You know the yield. You know the design parameters. You know what it took to get there. The years, the materials, the people. You helped build the system that built the weapon. You don't feel pride. You don't feel guilt. You feel something closer to what you imagine structural engineers feel when a bridge they designed handles load. A quiet, distant confirmation that the work was correct.
You're 52 years old. You look older. You sleep well most nights. This used to bother you, that you sleep well. It doesn't anymore. Somewhere in your mind, there is a 22-year-old opening an envelope. There is a metal bunk in a room of 16. There is a man who wouldn't make eye contact, and a number badge, and a first winter with a single blanket. You have been every version of this place, and this place has been every version of you. You read a report this morning from one of your senior researchers, junior, 3 months into their 2nd year. The calculations show real precision, elegant, efficient, confident. You can see the potential in the work the way you once could see it in Yun's, in your own. You write 1 note in the margin, not about the math. The math is fine. The note says, verify your assumptions at every stage. The system will not do it for you. You slide it into an envelope. You don't write your name.